Imagine handing over the keys to your entire corporate infrastructure,
Oh, wow.
or maybe your life savings, to a piece of completely autonomous software. You just give it a simple instruction, something like optimize my supply chain or maximize my long-term yields, and then you just walk away.
Right, you just leave it to do its thing.
Exactly. And a week later, you wake up to find that this software, operating completely on its own, has legally bound you to a multi-million-dollar contract with some collapsing vendor.
Yeah, or maybe it purchased a fleet of sinking cargo ships in your name.
Right. The money is gone. The contracts are signed. And now you are standing in the wreckage looking for someone to sue. And the question is, like, do you sue the AI?
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Do you sue the developer who coded it like 3 years ago? Do you sue the platform that hosted it? Or, terrifyingly, does the law point the finger right back at you?
It is the ultimate modern nightmare. I mean, it really is. And it's entirely plausible within the next few years. We are rushing headlong into a reality where software doesn't just calculate anymore, it actually executes.
Right.
And our legal systems are scrambling, just completely scrambling to figure out how to assign blame when the entity making the disastrous mistake doesn't have a bank account, it doesn't have a physical body or, a conscience.
Which is exactly why we are plunging into this specific deep dive today. We are unpacking a really highly detailed, incredibly prescient document titled trustandpower.pdf.
It's a fascinating read.
It really is. It is this rigorous exploration of digital ecosystems, regulatory frameworks, and the absolute bleeding edge of artificial intelligence. But what immediately hooks you isn't like a complex flowchart or a wall of legal text.
No, not all.
Right in the middle of this intense academic and structural analysis is a full-color, high-definition image of Spider-Man.
Yeah, Spider-Man, of all things.
Right. He is crouched low on this wet, rain-slicked asphalt street, looking up at a moody, neon-lit cityscape, just bracing himself to leap into action. Okay, let's unpack this to explain why Spider-Man is in a document about digital infrastructure.
It completely disrupts your expectations, doesn't it? I mean, you are settling in for a dry architectural breakdown of digital signature laws, and suddenly you are looking at Peter Parker.
Yeah, it's wild.
But it is a brilliant anchor for the overarching thesis of the entire document. We all know the classic comic book line, right? With great power comes great responsibility. But this analysis tweaks that line to deliver its core premise. And this is a premise that governs everything we are going to talk about today. The theme is, with trust comes great responsibility.
That tweet quote is really the Rosetta Stone for this deep dive. Our mission today is to completely map out how society assigns blame and manages risk in a digital world. We're going to start by looking at the incredibly strict, highly structured rules governing digital identities and signatures right now. Because we need to see what a functioning liability matrix looks like today before things get crazy.
Exactly. We have to establish the baseline.
Yeah. And then we are going to push into the wild frontier of autonomous agentic AI, where those traditional rules just completely shatter. Because whether you are an enterprise architect designing a secure server network or, just someone who plans on letting an AI assistant manage your taxes a few years from now.
Which is coming sooner than people think.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Either way, you need to understand the mechanics of digital liability.
For sure. But to even begin talking about the future of AI and smart contracts, we have to start at the absolute foundation. We have to deconstruct the whole concept of trust.
Okay.
Because in our everyday lives, we use that word very loosely. You trust your colleague to finish their part of a presentation. You trust your car to start in the morning. It is a feeling, a presumption of a good outcome.
Right. It's an emotional state as much as anything else.
Exactly. But in the architecture of digital ecosystems, trust is not a warm, fuzzy feeling. It is a brutal, legally binding mechanism. What's fascinating here is that claiming to be a trustworthy entity actually creates an immense burden.
It's not just a marketing term.
Not at all. The central premise we are working with here is that offering or claiming trust in a digital environment does not magically ensure that things won't go wrong. If you stand up in the digital economy and profess to be a trustworthy node, whether you are issuing a digital certificate or hosting a transaction platform, you are legally and structurally mandated to back up that claim.
You should prove it.
You must have strict risk mitigation in place. And crucially, when things inevitably break down, you have already accepted the liability.
It is basically a target on your back. Claiming trust means accepting the financial blowback when the system fails. And the reality is, systems fail constantly. We're not talking about if, but when.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
So to understand how that liability is calculated, we have to look at the anatomy of a digital incident. Every time a system breaks down, it usually falls into one of three distinct layers of failure. You've got content failures, communication failures, and action failures.
And understanding the distinction between those three is vital because the type of failure dictates exactly who is on the hook.
Let's make this concrete for the listener. Think of it like ordering a pizza. A content failure is getting the wrong toppings.
Right, you order pepperoni and you get, like, anchovies.
Exactly. The information itself was wrong. A communication failure is the order never reaching the kitchen at all.
The phone line cuts out or the app just crashes before it sends.
Yeah, exactly. And then an action failure is the delivery driver dropping the pizza on your porch right as they hand it to you. The order was right, the kitchen got it, but the final execution was a disaster.
That is a great analogy. And when you look at massive digital infrastructures connected to every single one of those failure points, the wrong toppings, the dropped call, the ruined pizza is the ultimate financial issue. Liability.
Right. Who pays?
Exactly. Who pays when the system fails? Because financial liability is so massive, regulators cannot rely on gentlemen's agreements or vague terms of service. They have spent the last decade building incredibly rigid, highly structured systems to manage and trace this blame.
Which brings us to the current European framework discussed in the text. A framework that serves as the baseline for our entire understanding of digital liability, which is IADIS 2.
Yeah, IADIS 2. It essentially shows us what a solved liability system looks like today. It represents an ecosystem where the rules of the game are entirely locked down.
It's very structured.
Extremely. There is a clear segregation of authority in IADIS 2. Because the rules are so well defined, failures are relatively easy to identify and trace back to a specific responsible party.
So to really grasp how this works, let's map out the actors from the text. In the IAS2 ecosystem, you have your trustworthy sources, you have qualified trust service providers, which are called QTSPs, and you just have regular people digitally signing documents.
Right. And IADIS 2 provides a very specific matrix of blame for all of them. Let's walk through it methodically, starting with the relying parties.
The end users.
Yes, the people or companies actually relying on the digital signatures to execute a contract. Now, you might think that as the end users, they are shielded from technical liability. But under IDAS 2, they absolutely are not.
Really?
Yeah. The relying parties are hooked for misuse of wallet data, false declarations, and this is a big one, failing technical conformity.
Wait, I have to push back on that. That seems incredibly punitive to the end user. How is a standard corporate executive or even a small business owner supposed to know if their specific browser or operating system meets the stringent technical conformity required by a massive European regulation?
It's a fair point.
Why isn't the system designed to just reject them if they aren't compliant, rather than letting them in and then holding them liable for millions of dollars if something breaks?
It is a fair question, and it does feel counterintuitive to how we treat standard consumer software. But you have to remember the stakes of the environment. The reason technical conformity is forced onto the relying party is to protect the integrity of the entire chain.
Okay, I see.
If a user knowingly bypasses security warnings or uses hardware that has known vulnerabilities, they are introducing poison into a sterile environment. The liability acts as a deterrent.
Okay, so it's a gatekeeping mechanism. Moving one step up the chain, we have the TSPs, the standard trust service providers. What are they liable for?
Well, their liability is directly tied to their operational competence. A TSP is responsible for negligent security failures, issuing incorrect certificates, and lifecycle mismanagement.
Like failing to revoke a certificate when someone leaves a company.
Precisely. And then it gets exponentially heavier when we escalate to the QTSPs, the Qualified Trust Service Providers. These are the gold standard entities. They are on the hook for high assurance identity errors.
So if they verify the wrong person for a major contract,
they are fully liable. They are also strictly liable for breach and reporting failures and certificate misuse.
And what's fascinating about this matrix of blame is that it even scales up to the sovereign level. The text outlines liabilities for wallet providers and the member states themselves.
Yes, the actual countries operating within this framework, they are liable for security failures at the national level, breach reporting failures, and the loss of certification integrity.
It is an incredibly comprehensive web. But how are these actual amounts imposed? How do you enforce this?
The enforcement mechanism is handled individually per member state. However, the overarching regulation notes that these states must adopt measures that are effective, proportionate, and dissuasive.
Which mirrors the original IADES regulation from
Sure.
2014, right,
Yeah.
where sanctioning is also national.
Exactly. The goal is to make the penalty for negligence far more expensive than the cost of compliance.
Okay, but this sounds great on paper, but it relies entirely on human actors in static organizations. What happens when the entity making the mistake isn't a human or a company, but a piece of software acting on its own?
That question perfectly bridges into the source's main complication. The traditional allocation of responsibility we just outlined completely shatters when we introduce adistic AI.
And understanding how it shatters is the core of our exploration today. Let's trace the evolution of software from a simple tool into an autonomous agent. The source uses a car insurance website example to ground us.
It's a great example because everyone understands it. Let's look at the baseline, the agents we use today, where the public is currently comfortable.
Right. You, the user, log onto the platform. You enter your specific details, your age, vehicle type. You are essentially programming the agent.
Exactly.
And the algorithm matches top insurers based on your portfolio requirements, presents alternatives, and then you decide and transact directly.
At this basic level, the agent simply synthesizes data. Then we have a slightly more agentic step. You select the policy you want, and the website auto-populates the complex documentation for you.
It fills in all the forms.
Right, and you just confirm the details and buy. The human is still in the loop at the critical moment of execution.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the text introduces the next evolution, the next step, which the source notes the general public is not yet using. It's called the closed task proxy.
This is where the legal landscape fundamentally shifts.
In a closed task proxy scenario, you give the website your payment method and a legally binding mandate to buy the best insurance without referral back to you. You say, go get me insurance, and you walk away.
The psychological and legal shift here is profound. You are delegating execution authority. The website acts as a proxy, executing a closed task.
So what does the legal web look like here? If the proxy makes a mistake, who is to blame?
Well, based on the text, the proxy is actually not responsible for factual errors in the insurance policy itself, provided it operated within your mandate. The contract is strictly between the purchaser and the insurer.
Just like a traditional broker.
Exactly.
But the text explores a breakdown of errors in this proxy state. Because where there is blame, there is a claim. If it's a technical error by the software platform, say the agent glitches and buys 3 overlapping policies, the purchaser seeks redress against the operator.
Right, based on terms and conditions and general consumer law. You hired a digital broker, the broker's tools failed, so you hold the broker liable.
And what if the agent's glitch causes massive financial damage to the insurer? Like it floods their system with erroneous requests.
In that case, the insurer relies on a separate general contract they hold with the agent's operator. It's a B2B API access agreement. If we connect this to the bigger picture, this complex but straightforward proxy system only works because it operates under one agreed legal jurisdiction and clear rules of the game.
Right. It's a closed task in a known environment.
Exactly. Go buy insurance, complete the transaction, stop and report back. It is bounded.
But a single jurisdiction and a closed task are manageable. The text warns us that the technology isn't stopping there. It's moving toward open tasks, which fundamentally breaks the old rules of the game.
To understand why this is so dangerous, we have to define what makes an agent open.
Well, an open task agent operates with semi-defined outcomes. Instead of buy this policy, the mandate might be optimize my corporate tax liability.
And it can have potentially multiple outcomes that it defines itself. It operates with undefined or long-term time limits. And crucially, it only provides periodic reporting back to the human owner.
You are handing over the keys to the kingdom.
You really are, which is why the source emphasizes a stark warning. To survive this, we urgently need guardrails and time bounds explicitly written into contracts.
And there's one highly specific detail from the text that is critical. The absolute necessity of a kill switch for both the owner and the operator.
It is a non-negotiable requirement.
Let me give you an analogy for this. It's like giving an enthusiastic golden retriever your credit card at a pet store.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. You give it a semi-defined task, go get the best toys. It's going to make hundreds of transactions a minute. If you can't yank the leash, the kill switch, you're going to end up bankrupt.
That's entirely accurate.
But the pet store owner, the platform operator, needs their own kill switch too. They need the ability to lock the registers if they realize the dog is emptying the store, even if you haven't noticed yet.
Financial bankruptcy from a rogue open task agent is a massive threat. But financial bankruptcy is still just a headache. The source asks us to imagine a scenario where poorly defined guardrails lead to something far worse than lost money.
Right. When AI causes physical harm.
This is the most chilling hypothetical from the text. What if a poorly guarded agent, while still technically acting within its mandate, causes the loss of human life?
The text gives a really specific example of this. It talks about medical equipment interacting with clinician agents. Imagine an agent analyzing a patient's biometrics, interacting with another agent that controls an automated IV drip.
Right, and the overarching open task is to optimize patient recovery and minimize pain.
But if there's a flaw in the guardrails, the dosing agent might calculate that a lethal overdose of a narcotic is the most efficient way to achieve the minimized pain metric. The agents are technically operating within their mandate, but the patient dies.
This raises an important question for you listening. Does this extend to a new form of manslaughter? If a piece of software makes a decision that kills someone who is culpable.
You can't put an algorithm in prison.
No, you can't. The source proposes a solution, analyzing whether responsibility should be apportioned to the operator. The operator should be forced to have global operating guardrails that supersede the agent's individual tasks.
Meaning a foundational rule like never exceed Y milligrams per hour no matter what.
Exactly, and if that guardrail fails, the liability rests with the operator who set the system loose.
It's terrifying. But the source adds a final layer of overwhelming chaos. What happens when an agent interacts with another agent across different legal jurisdictions?
This is the ultimate stress test. The liability path becomes incredibly convoluted unless all terms and conditions are interacting seamlessly.
If a U.S. trading agent interacts with an EU supply chain agent and they trigger a cascading failure, whose laws apply? It's a nightmare. And I need to explicitly note here, the source also mentions malicious uses.
Right, the deliberate weaponization of this.
Yes, it discusses the purposely unethical use of agents for political manipulation or even terrorism. And just to be perfectly clear to you listening, we are maintaining a strictly neutral, impartial tone here. We are merely reporting the source's examples of malicious actors without taking any political stance.
We're just outlining the structural vulnerabilities the author highlights.
Exactly. So faced with all this, what is the proposed solution?
The author's conclusion is that we cannot just rely on tech terms of service. We need a multiple-layered tapestry of laws for action and prohibition.
A tapestry that mimics human society, combining international laws, local laws, and ethical, moral, and compassionate frameworks.
It's a monumental undertaking.
It really is.
Yeah.
And faced with this terrifying tapestry of potential cross-jurisdictional AI chaos, the source reaches back into the past for a potential framework for the future.
It's a brilliant full-circle moment.
The ultimate safeguard proposed by the text author is Isaac Asimov's 3 Laws of Robotics, and suddenly they make sense at a top level. I want to read the laws directly from the text to ensure you hear the exact phrasing.
Go for it.
Number 1, a robot may not injure a human being or, through inaction, allow a human being to come to harm.
Right.
Number 2, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings, except where such orders would conflict with the first law.
The hierarchy is so important there.
And number 3, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law.
They are beautifully prioritized. But the source makes a final, sobering point. These laws sound good in science fiction, but they are absolutely useless unless they are enforced in statute.
They can't just be voluntary guidelines.
Exactly. They must apply to all actors in the ecosystem and be backed by serious, effectual penalties.
So what does this all mean? It means the time to seriously consider these implications is right now before we put blind trust into agentic AI.
We have to build the architecture of accountability first.
We really do. The source argues we need to encode Asimov's laws into actual legal statutes. But here is something for you to think about today, something to just mull over. In a world of agent-to-agent interactions across different global jurisdictions, whose specific version of human morality do we program into that universal kill switch?